So what if your next big character moment wasn't during a boss fight, but we're chilling in a hammock, grabbing on bug races or pranking your wizard mentor? Let's talk a little bit about downtime adventures. Hi, hello everybody, I'm Turk and welcome back to the Grouch Couch. Around here, my friends, we do all different kinds of TTRPG things, but today we're getting hella weird in the in-between stuff, right? Yeah, we're talking about saving the realm is really cool, but what happens when the swords are sheathed and the party's got 3 weeks to kill before the next airship ride, right? We're moving back into Mythic magazine number 54 again, because it's coming in hot with a whole buffet of wild downtime adventure ideas. So, let's turn your long rests into full-on side quests, my friends. That's right, today we're covering Mythic magazine 54 again, but we're doing the latter half, the back half. If you want to see the first half of this book, you can check out the other video, wherever the heck it is. And I've got loads of TTRPG advice things, especially for solo role-playing right here on the channel that you can check out. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of that stuff. Thank you so much. Let's dive into this thing. And also, if you want this Mythic magazine for yourself, you can use our Drive-Thru-RPG link down in the description. It'll help support the show. Thank you so much. First, we should talk about why downtime matters as much as it should, my guy. So here is the vibe, right? Most people are going to skip downtime, right? They're like, we long rest, cool, move on. But that's a whole missed opportunity, dude, to deepen character arcs and get hella weird with low stakes chaos, all right? And let the dice surprise you. If you present things in super fun new ways, your characters are going to start getting really into downtime activities. My players are like, let's go back to the tavern because I want to know what Turk has cooked up for us, right? My player goes to sleep, and while they're sleeping, they're getting messages and visions from their gods and talking to people and all their kinds of stuff. We're deepening our connections during downtime. It's super important. It's not always big adventure, all right? So downtime is where character vibes are going to grow. The action is gone, and it's all about roleplay time. I was sheathing my sword here. That's what this was. Think of it like a filler episode in an anime, right? That still end up being your favorite episode, even though it was all filler of downtime, of the guys just hanging out. So here in this book, dude, it says, get ready for your PC's weekend, right? The emphasis of this article is to produce adventures and campaigns that take place completely in the margins of your player's character's adventuring career. So those adventures still largely define, then we're just not that interested in them, right? If you start utilizing downtime a little bit more, it might encourage your characters and your players to build their characters for downtime, right? Like downtime is surprise time, like it says here. Maybe I should put a few points toward cooking or fishing skills or playing the lyre, or maybe I should actually think about the instrument that I'm picking that comes with my character, because I might actually get the opportunity to play it and, you know, ruse some people into something. I think having downtime stuff could also be moments where the story is still moving forward, right? But it's in a way that the stakes aren't as high. So it gives your players a little bit more time to be free and explore and try the little things that they have on their character sheets, right? So we are going to be rolling up a fun little downtime adventure later in the video, so stay tuned for that, okay? But Mythic lays out downtime into 3 juicy categories here in Mythic magazine 54, which I think is a perfect way to do it, all right? We've got personal stories, so one character goes off and does their own thing. Maybe they track down their childhood crush or go ghost hunting, all right? Solo missions, big feels, right? Number 2, the pair-ups. So you got 2 party members hit the town. Maybe it's a shopping trip, a duel, or solving a dumb mystery together. Perfect for bonding between those 2 characters or just for beefing together, right? And also we've got group antics. So the whole squad rolls up to a fantasy county fair or enters a chili cook-off against the local cult. Pure chaos and chaotic group vibes, all right? And you could rotate between all 3 of these. Either way, it brings dimension to your crew. And I did a lot of this in our previous campaigns, especially in our Dragon Vault campaign that you could check out right here on the channel, because all 3 characters had such different and in-depth backstories that I really wanted to touch on. Now, I would always, do a solo mission with T357 in there, because she had like this brother creator kind of guy who she was going and bonding with at the end of every night, and we would role play it out. I would also do skill checks and stuff during these downtime activities. That's important that it's not just all role play. Skill checks and other kinds of equipment and stuff needs to come into play during these downtime activities, in my opinion here, all right? So we're going to talk about crafting your downtime session, right? How do you actually run one of these bad boys, these Downtime adventures. And they have so many really cool roll charts and other kinds of ideas here in Mythic Magazine 54. If you do want to pick it up for yourself, again, link down in the description, and it will give you some ideas on how to do better Downtime things. But for now, we're going to talk about setting the stakes, okay? Even if it's chill, you got to give your Downtime activity some kind of consequence, all right? So winning a small little snail race of gambling down in the tavern, all right? It might earn you some coin, all right? Or losing a prank war might end up with you having a small curse to have a hat stuck to your head. Something that's still going to build the narrative moving forward after the downtime is over, all right? It could be something small, but just something that the characters remember, like maybe they lost a finger in a gambling debt, and now it's just kind of one of those things where they get to make fun of the guy because he's got one less finger, okay? The second thing here is that we have to give it structure, though, all right? Mythic in this book here recommends 3-act downtime arcs. So we have the setup, so who's involved and what is the goal. Secondly, we have the escalation, all right? So what unexpected or complication hits, and this is kind of where you're going to bring in the consequence here during this escalation. What are they gambling on? What are they trying to achieve? And then lastly is resolution, which is important. And it's important to not just have the resolution be, okay, you win, then you go to sleep. That's not what you want, all right? How does it wrap up? And make sure to talk about what changes. Talk about that finger that the character lost. This is an important thing here, right? And you could add a twist in from time to time, right? From the DM or from a roll chart, right? You can throw something in there just to kind of keep it spicy. And I've had this on the screen the whole time. This thing here, this downtime adventure creation chart is super cool. And you could even print it out, right? And cut it out, put it nice laminator with your DM notes you have next time you're doing something, and you could do it on the fly. You'd be like, okay, well, we're going to do a downtime activity. I don't know what it is, so we're going to roll on it, and we're going to follow these here prompts, which we're going to get into the roll chart prompts here in a second. We're going to start rolling some stuff. Here in this chart, it talks about generating the latest adventure summary. So what did we just get into previously? And even though this here Mythic module is for solo role players, I do think that there's a lot of good things that could be taken for an actual table as well, and that's why I'm kind of covering it in that way. But if you are a solo role player, hey, you've come to the right place here. That's what I'm talking about. So we are going to do a downtime adventure here. So we're going to create the epilogue, create the opportunity, and interpret a first scene, right? And then just role play on it as things go and kind of, let it play out. So there's a couple of notes. It says the adventure may be over, but does some part of it still overshadow the PC? So even though we're taking a long rest, is there something happening that's left over from that adventure that we could talk about in the epilogue, right? And then we go into the opportunity. So what's waiting for the player character after the adventure ends, right? Whenever we're doing our rest, what is going on? And then we interpret what's going on. So we have these awesome roll charts. And if you are interested in the other roll charts for creating a quest, creating a challenge, and everything else, they are right up here, and they're pretty good stuff. We've got outcomes for it, and each one of these comes with a D100 oracle chart with words, of course, that you can roll on. So treasure hunt, rescue mission, etc. But we aren't focused in on those today. We're focused in on the downtime adventure stuff. So the epilogue focus. Let's go ahead and roll on that. Our adventure is over. What's going on now? D100. That is, my friends, a 33 doubles. That means chaos if we're actually playing. But anyways, 33 processing time. There was something about the adventure that affected your player character emotionally. Determine what it is that's on their mind. And I think in this situation, it's good to roll on our epilogue roll chart. And we're going to do that twice just for a couple of words here. We've got a 68 and a 65. Okay. 68 is needs mistake. So over the course of our last adventure, our player character feels like they made a mistake. Something happened and they finished their quest in a way that they weren't happy with. And they feel like they need to get redemption. They need to fix maybe what had happened. So while they're resting, they're definitely thinking a lot about it. They're processing everything that just happened. But while that's happening, there is an adventure. There's an opportunity, right? So that's what comes next. Whoops, I rolled a D20. Don't worry about that. 70, acquisition opportunity. There's something your PC wants that they will have a chance to get. So like redemption, for for what we did in our last quest here, maybe. That's a 67 and a 1. 67 is NPC accident. So while we're resting, depends on where we're resting as well. So however your adventure ended, right? But I think simply enough, we could say we're resting in a tavern, just thinking, contemplating, drinking, you know, some mead, sitting at a table, and maybe an NPC next to us is talking about how they just had an accident and something happened. And maybe this accident had something to do with what we regret during our last mission. Like maybe the way that our mission resolved our last adventure, this accident happened because of something that we did, right? So maybe we had to like burn down some cornfields and now to kill a bunch of enemies, right? And now the NPC was the farmer of the cornfields, and they're like, there was an accident and all my corn is gone. And we might have a chance during this downtime to talk to them at the very least, figure out maybe what they need and what's going on. But the next part on our roll chart is to interpret the first scene. So that's for us to figure out. And that, my friends, is how we can just roll up nice little downtime during solo or during the rest of our party's things, right? I guess epilogue focus might be a little bit harder if we're doing it with our characters. They might have to be down for us to talk to them about things a little bit, but you could form it in the way of content and questions. If you're doing it with a full party, you can say like, was there something about the adventure that maybe affected your PC emotionally? And you can talk to them about it. And then you can roll up the next thing for the opportunity focus of them to fix that thing during downtime, which is a lot of fun. In this book here, there's also big examples, and I like that it actually BattleBot R for A8. I think it's a robot named Ray, and it talks about Ray's big adventure, and they give you a whole epilogue and everything from start to finish on their roll chart and how they did it to give you an example idea. And then down here at the bottom, it's just all of the roll charts in a row, and there's also a whole bunch of just meaning tables for actions for you to add to your solo roleplay stuff. It's a lot of fun stuff, my friends. I think downtime is really important, especially in solo role-playing. Downtime is especially important, but I hope that this gave you some kind of ideas or thoughts or context or something on making downtime a little bit more important in your solo games and in your full table games. Hopefully I helped it all right? What I will say a little bit more on the player buy-in, you know, if you are doing it at a table, let your players pitch ideas, right? So what would their characters want to do if they did have those 2 weeks off? And maybe the barbarian starts a food truck, maybe the rogue's running a long con, right? You don't need necessarily the roll charts. I think importantly here, you need to give your players agency if you're at a full table, and remind them that this downtime stuff isn't about the main plot, right? It's about vibes, and it's about learning more about their characters and what they would want to do. And always end your downtime activity with some kind of reward, a new ally, a weird item, or a good old-fashioned emotional scar. You know what I'm talking about? Then launch back into the main story, all right, and hit the gas on the narrative road trip. My friends, that's Downtime Adventures, dude. I mean, keep it weird, keep it fun, and let your party breathe between all the dragons, right? And next time your players say, let's rest, make them all roll and see who wakes up with a weird tattoo of a goose holding a knife. You know what I mean? But that's it for now, my friends. Take a seat on the couch. Roll initiative just for a little while, all right? Make sure to leave a like on this video if you found it helpful or entertaining. Use our links down in the description. And for now, roll on that, weirdos. We'll see you next time.